All right, you got me right off the bat with that one there, Fire.
I just finished taking. You probably still see it. I dampened my shirt with some water to get the wrinkles out. I used the blow dryer because I have a blow dryer. Clearly, I need one. A blow dryer to dry it off. I have my granddaughter here also. Her cousin was supposed to come over also, but she's not gonna make it. So I've got my granddaughter here Friday night. Granddaughter comes over, swings. I cook her lots of food and pamper her, and then she goes back to school. So there you go.
Fun time.
So kids, man. Kids.
That's awesome.
I had been working on the background. I've got this. I could do that, but I don't know if you notice that as soon as I put black, it fully and there's nothing I can do about it. It just goes. You're a specter.
You need to put on gobs of makeup.
A lot of makeup, and if I turn off all the lights, it looks okay, but I can't move, or else it goes.
Oh,
but if I take, watch this, paper towels, goes away. I don't know why. So I can't use this. This is not gonna work for this. That is only gonna be for gaming, for streaming.
Wild.
That's just for streaming.
Well,
and I use that background to do my ghost face.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can go back to
works.
Doing the floating head thing. That was pretty cool.
Yep, that's how I do, and I like doing that. Although I have to say, first off, I have found, because I have streamed a couple times and I've recorded a couple streams. I don't like streaming. I don't like watching. Clearly, I don't like watching what I say. And when you're streaming, especially when I'm streaming with Cheesy and Arbiter, I like to speak my mind, and we talk about what our day. And some of the stuff is personal, and you can't really stream. I don't feel comfortable streaming when they are telling me personal information.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out a way to enjoy streaming without exposing others. Oh, look, I'm all dry. Nice. Okay.
We'll figure something out, because that's going to be a thing. In the future.
So I think streaming or with Cheesy is, as long as she knows, or I give a format for what we're doing streaming, I think ahead of time, that will be better. But just for gaming, for enjoyment, when I'm on Discord and playing the new one, Enshrouded, which has been pretty fun, I don't like it. I don't like it unless we're going to have conversations, or discuss the game, or discuss something tech, or do one of these. I think I'm just going to game off the stream, mostly.
Okay.
Unless it's with you.
Well, we'll see. We'll cross that bridge after we burn it.
Yep.
I was all set to try to talk about that one late. Help me out, Chris Stevenson. Is it Stevenson? Or is it Steve Christofferson? Anyway, the dude who was talking to the other dude.
Jawline?
Yeah.
The dude that was talking to the other dude, the thick jaw.
With the beard.
Oh, right.
Because they had such a compelling conversation, and it was it hit me where I live.
Was it?
But I need to.
Did it?
I watched that video like 3 or 4 times, and I need to watch it one more time and write down questions. Well, one of the main things that I was writing down, or that I was listening for, was to listen to it from different points of view. I want to listen to it.
Okay.
The third time, from the context of a Holocaust person in the Nazi concentration camp. Because, like I've always said, if advice that you have for anybody, philosophical advice or whatever advice it is, doesn't care. If it doesn't work for somebody in a Nazi concentration camp, then it's crap. It doesn't work at all. It's got to work for those guys or it's no good. So I was thinking, okay, so how would...
I suppose you could go from that angle. Although if you're on the International Space Station and they say don't open the airlock, that's crap information for a concentration camp. But if you're on the International Space Station, don't open an airlock is important.
Not so much of a life.
So there's context.
That's a safety tip, Ray.
Yeah. there's some context. But okay.
What I mean is, you could sit there and talk about pull yourself up by your bootstraps, kind of, motivational talk all the time. That would have not worked for somebody in Nazi concentration camp. They would have been like, pull myself up and I've got
what boots?
I've got your bootstrap right here. I hate my bootstraps and the boots last week.
Yep.
I mean,
there's no boots. There's no straps.
That was not really funny.
It's
dark.
Laugh and cry.
Yeah, seriously. I hate that happened. But I don't ever really let my brain go too far away from that, ever. I don't know how I got cursed like that. It would be a lot easier to just sit there and enjoy life like a butterfly and flitter along and never think about things like the Holocaust. But it weighs heavily on my mind, and I don't even have somebody that died in it, directly. There's nobody that I know that, just died. But I feel strongly for those kind of things.
Well, it shouldn't. Somebody shouldn't have. You shouldn't have to suffer personally to understand that others suffer. That's just empathy. A lot of us have it. A lot of us get, from what I can see about the Republican Party, have it punished out of you. So, or guilted out of you. Don't show weakness. Don't cry. Pull yourself up with your bootstraps. Don't be a pussy. Don't be, the whole conservative, manly man, toxic male kind of thing. I think a lot of people.
A lot of that's just basic Stoic philosophy.
Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome. No, not Stoic. Not Stoic. Stoic. I'm actually cool with Stoic. I like Stoic.
Well, good. How do you feel like Stoic differs from pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Because Stoic philosophy too doesn't completely stand up in a concentration camp. Not completely. It would help a lot.
No, I was mostly talking about the right wing kind of propaganda, because there's the left, the bleeding heart, liberal, everybody, kumbaya, right? There's that side, and I think the right has the opposite, of course.
I suppose. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I
generalizing.
Generalizing. Yeah, I could see where it kind of fatally fits in there, but it's not anything that I would consider to be quite so stereotypical. Although that's my own perspective on it. I just don't know.
The toxic part, or the negative part of the Stoic or the lighting, is kind of like the drunk father and the wife beater that beats his son to make him tough. That's the toxic kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps, don't be a pussy, brain damage that a lot of people grow up in, and they tend to be, God damn it, like religious conservatives, because a lot of the conservative families,
somewhat
a lot of stress.
Thing, but it would be more of a religious thing than
just
thing. Perhaps
just a stereotype. I'm just talking.
Know.
That's the negative issue that I have with the idea of don't be a pussy, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, make it happen, kind of conservative, versus the liberal, can't we all just hug it out and be of a commune. Both have their issues, I think.
Both mindsets have their place.
and both have their place, right? So I'm sorry. That was my. I don't know where you're going with that. Go ahead.
That's okay. No. I was just saying I need to watch that video one more time, write down some very excellent points to then talk about, and then carry forward. So that will be another episode because I did not listen to it and write down those questions. I was only listening to it several times so that I could. Do you want me to talk to the hand?
No, my camera is not focusing.
Your camera's not cameraing?
No, it's not. I've got some weird technical issues. It's all right. Continue on.
It's all right. Yeah.
Maybe it's me.
I can still see your eye color. I feel like that's a move in the right direction. What I can't see is that enormous zit directly. Oh, now I can make it out. So
Actually, this is skin cancer. I don't know.
Oh, no. I was only kidding about
that's
the
skin
zit.
cancer. No, but it's
Yeah,
not a zit. It's skin cancer.
I've got my own touch of something that I, still haven't had anything checked out for on it. I just, however, to be metastasize and die.
Yeah. I've been treating the top of my head with cannabis oil, but I get really high, so I'm taking a little time off from that. It absorbs. You get high.
Outstanding.
There's worse things for treating cancer.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed that it all works out, because the other video was actually quite compelling as well. The one that you sent me with that guy talking to the other guy, Tom Bellew talking to
the guy talking to the guy, Tommy.
What was his name? What was his name?
The other guy.
The other guy.
They talked about things. I know his name.
I'm so horrible with names. What the heck? Getting old is sucking.
You do not know his name.
No. It was Dr.
Mahmood Khan. Dr. Mahmood Khan.
That's what I was trying to remember.
Mahmood.
I was going
Mahmood.
Brain went to Fauci for some reason, and it's like the opposite.
If only I had a computer in front of me where I could look it up.
Wow. Oh, that would have been a thing.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was a very compelling conversation, and just to summarize for anybody watching us, it was all about longevity and the possible logistics of immortality, and I liked that they went into some of the economics behind it and the socioeconomics specifically with regards to first adoption and then wide adoption and how it might work out for mass adoption, even though we're talking about something that could, at least initially, be very expensive.
Mm-hmm. I watched it. I did like it. I spent my time sitting on the floor stretching while it was playing on the big screen.
Awesome. That's good.
But we've heard all these conversations. Yeah, we've heard all these conversations. It's nice to be reminded. I guess we've had these conversations. God, I remember having these conversations in Utah about only the rich.
But the thing is we were younger and immortal at the time, and we had never imagined getting to the age of mid-50s and not having some of these techs already in place. I think we had underestimated the time frame, perhaps. But we were already going to live forever. We knew that we were going to be the first generation to beat the rap, and now we're hitting that age where we're skating on.
We still could
ice.
be,
and we could be. But we've had enough close calls where we're like going.
We were talking about. Maybe it won't, but we've made it. But I remember talking, saying that no matter what, if we know the technology is going to be there, we can crawl through broken glass for 50 years, and as long as we know we're going to get regenerated on the other end, it's worth it. And we were talking about that, having never laid down and crawled through broken glass.
No, that was definitely
Now that we have
totally
arrived
philosophy right
at the
there.
field of broken glass, yes. Now that we are belly first in the glass, it hits different.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Although at the same time, we are, when we were talking about this, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma was a death sentence. So I am benefiting from future medical technologies that we didn't have at the time. I just hadn't anticipated cancer being the broken glass I was laying in.
Yeah, yeah.
So we are there. I am benefiting from modern technology, modern medical technology. This will probably not be what kills me. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. It'll be something else. I get, depending on how my mood is, I get optimistic and pessimistic because there's no reason, especially with AI, where it is right now. It's likely that they're going to be able to do some serious regeneration or some slowing down of the aging process, some medical interventions that we will be able to take advantage of. It's just whether or not how much broken glass we can take and whether we can just make it to that escape velocity. I'm still on the fence.
Yeah.
But AI is cool. AI is doing a lot of stuff. It's going to do the heavy lifting. I hope.
All we can do is hope.
And it'll probably kill us all.
Yeah, but I think it's worth the risk. Frankly. Seriously. I think it's worth the risk. And in fact, it's not even my call to make. So that just be
that's the risk that is.
Yeah.
It is the way it is. There's not like we can shut off AI. You can't stop progress.
We're going to remain optimistic about it.
The Dark Ages tried. Religious fanaticism and like the Crusades and the Dark Ages, they tried to stop progress. It was only a blip. I don't think progress will even be slowed. I hear Musk talking about we need to, be careful, and I hear all the super brainiacs in Silicon Valley saying we need to have regulations. They're never going to do that. Every one of them is going, yes, we need to slow down, as they're actively stomping on the gas pedal. Humans are going to human. Monkeys are going to monkey around, and that's just the way it is. Because we want cool stuff. And it's cool. This is the coolest stuff ever.
Yeah. So
I can prattle on about stuff I don't like.
Well, in previous conversations, and we've already kind of had this one too, with regards to, I'm not sure exactly where my brain turned in the course of your last little bit there, but I got to thinking about the resurgence in religion that has occurred in the last 10 years. And I'm not sure exactly what it was you said that made me think of that, but I thought, and
the Dark Ages?
One possible, it could have been that. Oh, yeah, because the Dark Ages tried that. Yes. Mm-hmm. I was like going, yeah, and there's energies at work. I shouldn't call them energies. What are they? They're forces. There are forces at work. Mm-hmm. Dark forces.
Yes.
At work,
yes.
Trying to drag us back into some of that mysticism and stuff. And I give them a large pass to a large degree, because I still kind of feel like, well, religion to a large degree is harmless, but I don't want to totally just sit there and say, go with what you want. I have to acknowledge that there's probably second and third order ill effects that come from religion specifically, and any other form of mysticism generally. And I only pick religion because, I got so, brainiac and talking to you and the trip and all that sort of thing, back in the day, where we finally was able to stop and realize, okay, that is a bunch of fantasy BS and move forward in a new direction in life. That it was sans that particular mysticism, although I may have others. And it's like I said, 10, 15 years ago, it was huge on YouTube, the atheist-theist debate. I felt like, we kind of put that one to bed ultimately with the ultimate arguments that were taking all of the great philosophical arguments, both in support of theism and against theism, and I felt like there was a clear winner. It was atheism. you know, and Sam Harris, he tapped the last nail into that coffin and said, "Let's put this thing, let's bury it finally, forever, finally good."
Yep.
But no.
And then the masses joined in. The blood of the earth, the salt of the earth joined in, because that was that was at the beginning, and I did a video on that, talking about how we were the first, and the people that were first doing that were technologically savvy, because it wasn't initially easy to record and upload a video. You had to be kind of a fanatic and own a camera and understand how to convert.
Yeah, there were plenty of theists,
right.
Back then who were still putting out content.
There were, but they were the most savvy, and there weren't a lot of them. And once you have like the backing, see, the thing was, at the time, computers, like when YouTube was first starting, computers were still beige, right? They were all beige. And once it became once it became mainstream, and there's RGB lighting, and the knuckle draggers can make their like the pickup truck. You got to be able to bling out your pickup truck. You can't do that with electric cars. The whole electric car, gas car, back and forth. As soon as computers became a status symbol, and then became easy enough for the everyday person, it just, the religious floodgates opened up, and all the atheists at the time were caught unawares because they were busy, like I like to say, punching each other in the dick, trying to hash out the minutia where atheists don't agree. You always get to a point where you win against the bad guy, or you win against the opposition, but peace leads to nitpicking on the fringes, which needs also to be done.
Things need to be hashed out.
But at the time that the new atheist movement, once the new atheists were kind of involved with themselves, that's when religion went, oh, look, YouTube can make money. And then, and you had corporate interest and corporate churches just pound. Was Prager University? Oh my God! Places like Prager University and the religious think tanks got involved as soon as money became available, and that's when you start hearing the. What's that called when the spies put out false information, propaganda, false flags?
Isn't it propaganda?
Yeah. Yeah, well, the religions tried to start. Yeah, they're muddying the waters so you didn't know what. So the average person that was just popping on YouTube would go, well, I don't know about religion. I kind of believe in God. And the opposition flooded the YouTube with so much murk that a lot of people, unless you experienced the beginning of it, unless you had eased yourself into it and knew it was coming, you'd be lost. And I think a lot of people are lost. Too much information. Information overload, and they can't tell right from wrong. And I think AI is going to do the same, even worse. But
a lot of being able to tell right from wrong, or even misinformation from disinformation, from malinformation, from, truth from falsity. Right. That's a maturity thing. Right. when you're young, you'll fall for a lot of stupid crap because you just haven't seen the stuff. That's taking MLMs just as a perfect example. A perfect example. They target
because we've
young
seen our fair
kids.
share.
Yeah, we have. They target
Yeah.
young kids because by the time you're in your mid 30s, if you haven't already tried one, you're not going to. You already go, oh, okay, that. Mhm.
Right.
And a few people, only a very small few people, are going to sit there and try multiple MLMs throughout their life and go, this one's going to work. This one will work. That's not going to be your huge body of people, and that's certainly not going to be the bread and butter for an MLM who's trying to grow. Young kids, young kids are going to be that. So with age and maturity, you
Just
get
like
to this
religion.
point
Yep.
where things can kind of you get past that smell test, and you're going, oh, okay, this smells scammy, or oh, okay, this doesn't smell right, or whatever. And so, uh, as an outfit, say for instance, PragerU comes out, and, they're going to be able to probably convince a ton of young kids who perhaps grew up atheist because their parents were non-secular or whatever, and uh, so the kids are just and they're like find religion for the first time. Oh, this is kind of a cool thing, and then they get sucked in and they'll have to go through that journey, which could take them 5, 10, 15, 20, perhaps longer. Maybe if they're lucky, they'll come to their senses earlier than that. But you're really religion is a little bit insidious, and I would probably have to just say all mysticism on this one, because if a
Yeah.
kid isn't raised in it, they're still susceptible. In fact, you could think of it like an inoculation. If you're inoculated to religion at a young age because you were exposed to it at a young age and then got out of your system, you're done. There is no way. Let me just put it this way: I could not conceive of a instance where somebody would be able to come back to me and sell me on God, short of them. I couldn't even imagine raising somebody from the dead.
Doing magic.
They would
Yeah.
have to do. They would have to do
Yeah.
magic so convincing that I was like going, okay, well that's at least 3 levels of magnitude above David Copperfield or whoever you care about. I don't care. I mean, seriously, they would. I couldn't
Yeah.
even imagine what they would have to show me for me to go, okay, I'll believe in what you're saying. And this goes very much to once again the young people who wouldn't have to see that at all. I'm inoculated. Somebody who was raised non-secular, maybe not so much, and they can fall very pronely victim to even more insidious things than just regular, traditional, routine organized religion. They can fall into a cult. But again,
Right.
cults target young people for that very reason. Your mid 30s, mid 40s person, they're just not gonna. They're gonna be like, they've picked up too much knowledge by then.
Unless they're already in the cult, unless they've already been in it since birth, and then another cult leader comes along.
And they would have to be seriously, horribly
I'm
invested
going
in that.
to mention the. Yeah, I'm going to mention the current political movement, the cult of Trump, who all the religious people are going, he's the second coming of Jesus Christ himself. He's godly. I don't know if you've heard these people.
I haven't heard those
They
people.
were in a cult before, and Trump is. Oh, there's a lot of them, and they're the MAGA, Make America Great Again. They want to go back to the mystical times.
We have had this conversation.
They were in control, and their religion.
I said we've had this conversation.
Well, you don't even have to go to Trump. Yeah, we have this conversation, and the other ones are. I'm constantly surprised at how many flat earthers there are.
Oh, but you got a point there. You've got
we
a
can
very
see
good point.
the planet.
Yeah. Have you ever,
There's a lot of mysticism, and it causes a lot of damage. And
have you ever talked face to face with somebody who is a flat earther? Face to face, I mean, not online.
I have
or
not.
Okay.
I have not.
I have had that fine experience.
Nope.
And what I can tell you for sure is that she was a complete nut job. It was a she. So this was a few years ago, I want to say. So before the days of QAnon, and I don't even want to say that word because it flags your shit. But there you go. Um, so this would have been I don't know. Let's see, what year was it that I was talking to this chick? It was at a club. Um, let's say probably about 2015. 2015,
Chicks,
and
man.
and she told me that she, you know, believed in certain conspiracy theories with regards to the moon landing and the shuttle program and blah blah blah, and she could cite some basic, what's the word I'm looking for? She was citing. I don't want to say she was citing studies because that's not what they were. Uh,
Inconsistencies?
yeah, she was citing other people that had published, for lack of a better word, non-peer reviewed, obviously, but published certain
Sure.
works,
Hmm.
documents, whatever, that said X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
about
The
shuttle
murky
program
water, the propaganda.
or
Right.
NASA. But but the main thing, my whole point to this diatribe real quick is just that in talking to her face to face, I was able to see the imbalance in the eyeballs. So what we're really talking about, if I've got a feeling I
Sure.
could be wrong here, I could be wrong, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and just speculate just a little bit that anybody that actually believes in flat Earth theory or flat Earth hypothesis, however you want to put it, against all of the amazing scientific evidence that we have to the total 100% contrary, not to mention the math, not to mention the math. The second that you've got
Yeah.
somebody that is to go that far into mysticism, because that's a magnitude way beyond God. That's a magnitude way beyond uh, Norse mythology, Greek mythology.
You
Pick your
would
mythology.
like to think so, but that's where they got the idea.
Perhaps.
The flat earth is in the Bible is the problem.
Um, I
It's
suppose.
the earth is posted on the four corners, and God separated the waters from the water with the firmament. So
Yeah.
so you have anybody that actually believes in Christianity, they believe that the earth is a flat plane with a glass dome over it
Or
that
many
God
other
made,
theories
and
that they
it's
have
water above
that are wacky.
and
Yeah.
waters below. But this is the Bible. This is Genesis. This is right up front. This is the opening statements.
Right, right,
This
right.
is water. God separated the waters from the water.
And to be
And so a
fair,
lot of these flat earthers are hardcore
religious nut
religious.
jobs. Yes, and she was too, if I remember right. I want to say she was a religious Jesus freak as well. But my point is that you can see the imbalance in the eyes. I mean, literally
Shaq is a flat
imbalance.
earther. Yeah. Oh no.
Who was a who was
You
a
can see. Yeah, you can see the imbalance. Shaq, the basketball player.
Oh,
There's a lot of sports players that are. Yeah,
really?
he's a flat
Shaq?
earther. Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
does he go online and
It's
talk this
frightening.
stupidity? What is he?
Yes,
Does
he
he
has.
tweet
That's
weirdness? Is he
in
just
interviews. He talks about it in interviews.
huh?
I don't think so. He might be mildly religious, or generally. A lot of sports people, thank God for whatever. They don't thank God for their losses because
Huh.
that would be consistent. But yeah, he's a flat earther. There's a lot of flat earthers there that just blow my mind.
That one blew my mind. So let me ask you a question then, just for kicks and giggles. This is all just for seriously, just for kicks. Um, what would you
Sure.
consider more nutbary, flat Earth or Scientology?
Hmm. Scientology has an inner logic. I mean, it's a religion. It's
Yeah.
nutty, but flat earthers. See, flat earthers I put in the same category as science deniers, as the whole, again, can't mention the plague of 2020, but the whole masks don't work, doctors don't know what they're saying, but this YouTube guy that bleeds chickens and reads the bones in the cups, he knows what's going on. I see almost in all of their ideas or anti-science ideas a betrayal, because a lot of them have the experience that when they were younger or previous, they put all their faith into science and the doctors and then they found out that they're human and scientists can make mistakes or get greedy and lie. I know it's weird. Religious people don't do that. Get greedy and lie. But everyone that I see that seems to be flat earther or QAnon or something like that has a feeling that they were betrayed and they overcompensated, and now they're not hearing anything from the authorities. Any authority is bad. Any quack has got to be better. In fact,
that's an interesting idea.
I remember being part of that crew, because I remember being part of the group that said your vote doesn't matter. If I had been able to vote, or if I had voted and everyone I had voted for had become president, nothing would have been different. And then I got smacked in the face with Al Gore and George Bush. And I got it put in my face that if Al Gore had been president, we would not have gone to war in the Middle East. We would not have had that reaction that Bush did and and bombed another country that had nothing to do with it. So I had to look at the fact that different politicians do make different choices. And so I kind of got snapped back into, oh, crap, pay attention. Yeah. But a lot of other people that I see that get lost into the QAnon, they've been betrayed by the politicians. They found out some fact that they thought was true and that they heard an authority say, and then they found out it was wrong. And even with doctors talking about things like the plague of 2020, they were wrong. And I think you're part of this to a small degree with a particular doctor where they were wrong, and then they come out later and said, no, this is actually better. I was wrong then. Your confidence is shattered, or their confidence is shattered, and this isn't you, but the QAnons, they really just pivot hard to conspiracy, to anti-science, to any anti-authority. And I think that's where I see a lot of that camp.
Okay. So you got my noggin jogging, so let me toss out some notions with what you're talking about there. If we examine this real quickly from the frame of life is risk management, okay? If you've got somebody who is going through life and they've got a certain level of risk aversion or risk friendliness. What's the word I'm looking for? Risk
tolerance.
Tolerance. Thank you.
Tolerance.
Oh God, risk tolerance. Somewhere on that little spectrum of risk there. That's going to be different to the individual, and obviously hormones have a factor in playing in that. So that's just food for thought.
And brain chemistry, hormones, brain chemistry,
sure, and all sorts of brain chemistry, upbringing, everything, all of it. But they fall somewhere on this notion of how they manage their own risk, and a lot of times it's totally sub-aware. For a lot of people, they do not think about risk management. They're not thinking about their normal everyday, getting up and going out the door of their house and walking across the street, unless they're agoraphobic, then they're, that sort of. But anyway,
right.
So if you've got somebody who's just kind of traipsing through life, blah, 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 not thinking about risk management, not thinking about anything at all, and then suddenly they get smacked in the face with uh, election consequences, say for instance, consequence elections have consequences, and they lose that trust factor in somebody that they had previously, that leader, for instance, that they'd had trust in. They're going through life, and I trust this leader, and then suddenly, oh man, and they lose that trust. It's changing. I think I want to suggest that it's changing something with how they assess and manage risk, even if it's a sub-aware thing. If they're not thinking about it, but it's still changing how. Okay, so you know, they something happened with an election and there was consequences that affected their life in a negative way. They're going home. Okay, so I had my Johnson sticking a little bit too far out on that one, and I lost the tip of it. Okay, so now I'm going to cut back, and they become. You could say conservative, but I don't even want to say that. What I'm going to say is more risk averse, and so what'll happen is what I'm kind of speculating, at least I should say. I shouldn't say what happens, but what I'm speculating is happening is they they could normally find themselves invested in a particular idea or particular value or particular politician who is espousing or talking a particular value, and then they see a negative effect from that, or they see how they lost their trust in it, what have you, blah blah blah, and they pull themselves back. They disinvest in that idea, and perhaps you could even say disenfranchise. That would, because that's what you're talking about here with a lot of people who are feeling like they lose their trust in the leaders, what have you. They're disenfranchised, but I would say they could become disinvested, and they're going to in the future invest very differently. Again, even though when I say invest, I'm not talking about actual putting money in the stock market. I'm talking about how they spend their time, what they put their trust, where they invest their trust, where they spend their time, what values they espouse, and that sort of thing. What do you think of that? I don't know how exactly articulate I was with that whole idea, but I was spitballing with a lot of spit.
I think that's part of it. I think that's a way to. Yeah. All depends what street you're on. I think the trust thing is it, but in a vacuum, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. If you just lost trust in a politician or lost trust in a scientist, you could take a step back and go, oh, okay, well, that guy has some issues. The problem is you don't do it in a vacuum. You lose trust in an authority, and just like religion, there's somebody's going to swoop in, and because when you lose trust, you lose your balance with reality. If you've trusted this as you've lost trust in reality, because you lose the trust in your authority, and suddenly you go, I was on board with their whole idea, and suddenly I'm faced with the fact that they don't know what they're talking about, or that they were really wrong on some area, and so you get lost, you get scared. I remember feeling that often when I was younger, and so you're more quick. I mean, the human brain wants answers. Our consciousness is our subconscious telling stories to itself. That's us telling stories to ourselves. And if we lose track of the plot, it's very confusing. So I get that. And there are a lot of charlatans. There's a lot of monkeys want to make money. Or there's a lot of other people that have lost that trust in a similar way, and they latched on to somebody else's story. And they went, oh, this makes sense. If this scientist is lying, then the opposite scientist or somebody that's saying something different, the conspiracy must be true. And I think that's a lot of where the conspiracy is they're looking for reality again. And when you lose trust in like the mainstream, you're like falling, you're in free fall. And so you're trying to grasp on to something that makes sense. And conspiracies, religion, mysticism makes sense with your feelings. I think a lot of the way the human mind, the human consciousness communicates with itself Because I constantly keep in mind that the way we talked to ourselves before we had words was only through emotion. You only felt reality or felt what your perceptions are trying to communicate to you. If you have words, it's a lot easier. It's like, don't go there, there's a lion. But if you don't have words or labels, you just feel fear and you act on your emotions because and I think intuitively, in fact, I know intuitively we react to things like that, react emotionally, and I am constantly reassessing my emotions about stuff, how I feel about politicians and facts, and trying to separate this. That would be the Stoic, trying to separate how I feel about what is. And I think a lot of people just latch onto something, whatever the betrayal was, say, I don't want to say his name, a doctor says something wrong about a plague, and you go, you were wrong, ha! And then you're instantly looking for somebody else saying, oh yeah, he was wrong. See, I knew it all along. But this guy over here is selling horse paste. But see, the corporations don't want you to know it's actually the cure. And so you get a conspiracy kind of mixed in with money, mixed in with special information. People love to have information that they think the others don't have, especially when they've been betrayed and they've lost balance with reality, and they know that authority for some reason now is in question. Having special inside information, I think, is very comforting. But that's, the betrayal thing, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, was kind of my point. If it just happened in a vacuum and you go, oh, he was wrong, and you were allowed to process that and look for yourself, I think it would be okay. But we live with a bunch of other scared, lying monkeys, and they're going to get you. Just like religious organizations are going to get you when you're weak and hungry and scared. Conspiracies are going to get you when you've been betrayed and you've lost your balance in reality.
So let me ask you,
as I see,
just out an idea and give you a question. Take your average person who was going through life and then gets hit with something that shakes their worldview, and before that something that shakes their worldview, they're trying to integrate reality like we do, like everyone does. We're trying to integrate reality, and we've got a certain amount of integration that is probably, more or less on, and there's going to be a certain amount of integration that is off, obviously, because nobody can totally see reality 100%. That's going to be God.
Nope.
Later,
nope.
or never. But you've got whatever,
right.
Some goggle there. It's going to be some little thing, and for everybody, it's going to have some varied thickness. Some people see reality quite well.
Filters.
Somebody quite young has probably got pretty thick goggles on because they're young and they're not experienced, and maybe there will be other factors that can come along that can change the width of your goggle. But the main question is for the most part, do you think it's a thing that somebody could be going through life and have their S together, and they're integrating reality quite well, and they've got a thickness that is right in line with their general mature age, not horribly thick because they're, theist or some weird thing, flat earther, Scientologist, and not super thin because they're way ahead of their time or whatever the situation might be. I don't even know if that's a thing, but they go through this life changing, this smack in the face event that shakes their confidence for a second. Is it really a thing for them to come out with thicker lenses? Because does it make them? Do they go through some period, maybe even a long period, where they're actually integrating reality less than before the event? Can it really cover just how you really integrate?
I think that's one of the problems with religion is I think it's a necessary byproduct of us trying to integrate realities. Because it's not that you're integrating reality less, it's that you're compelled, if you've never had to address something and you're just going through life, like the earth being flat. I would imagine back in the day, not a lot of people even thought about it. So they just went through their life thinking, sure looks kind of flat. So it didn't affect their reality until something happens where they have to address it. But it's not that they're taking in reality less. I would say that they're more taking in different aspects of reality.
That's what I was thinking too.
And not reality, because like you were saying, we don't actually see reality. We don't really know what it is, but we see some consistencies. We see some evidence. Right, we see some evidence. So even people that believe the earth is flat aren't jumping out the second story window to go to work. There's some physics. There's some gravity. There's you're not just going to eat whatever mushroom happens to be growing up out of the ground in front of you because you're hungry. So there's some sense that there is a reality. Some of it kills you, some of it's right, some of it's wrong. But when you get into where we are now as a intelligent consciousness, a more evolved species, I think this is the part of the great filter that intelligences have to go through, because a dog isn't contemplating any of this. It doesn't have to. It doesn't care whether the earth is flat or round. It makes no difference to the dog. But to us, once we start thinking about thinking and why things happen, that's when we have to address it. And there's different layers or levels of knowledge. Before you have knowledge, it's all guesswork. Before you have knowledge, everything is magic. After you have knowledge, everything is really magic. So there's magic where I like to use the example when God does something, if you believe in God, is it magic? And a lot of people would probably say yes, but then can he do it again? And does he know how he did it? Can he replicate it? Because at that point, it's not magic. At that point, it becomes a science and a formula. So real magic isn't magic to the magic user. The magic user, to anyone doing the magic, it's science.
It's a recipe.
It's only magic to somebody that doesn't know. Right. It's only magic to somebody that doesn't know how it's being done. Magic is the sparkly ignorance of possibilities. And once you understand, see, what's been kind of fun for me is I've always loved science fiction and fantasy. As long as it's internally consistent, as long as the story doesn't go, oh, and suddenly he has this magic power that he can do anything. I don't want that. It has to be
that's just
internally consistent and leading. Because it's if there's no conflict, if there's nothing to have to get around, there's no story. But the stories in religion and in fantasy, where they're casting spells, they're using words that have power and artifacts that have powers. The farther into it wasn't Asimov, but of any science, advanced science, if it's advanced enough, is magic to somebody else. It looks like magic.
Right.
As we're getting there, especially with especially with the AI that's out now, we're really seeing that we can say words, we can cast spells and make things happen. We can conjure up magical images by using words. And so the science is catching up to the ignorance of what religion and magicians were kind of just flubbing. It's like, don't look at the man behind the curtain. Science is making magic real. And I think we're going to have, there's a lot of people, this is the struggle. A lot of people are going to grasp onto their ignorance that magic has to be sparkly and unknowable. And it's just not. I think that's where a lot of the conflict is going to be. We're finding the answers. I think a lot of people that have problems with masks and freedoms and and I think what they're leaning back on, a lot of them, because I hear them, are wrestling with the fact that diseases are caused by the gays. Of course. I mean, they're demons, and because we've sinned, because there's gay people touching wieners, there's disease and tornadoes. And those people are still out there talking, and then you get somebody like a doctor during the plague that comes out and says, we know masks work, wear them because it's our best defense. The people that think, no, it's because wieners touch, that's where, and so they're going to come up with any other kind of conflict. I think we're really addressing, or really coming to the rub of mysticism. This is what we've been experiencing, arguing as long as we've known each other. Mysticism butting up against knowledge, and betrayal, knowledge of somebody smart getting something wrong, I think shakes a lot of people even more if they've never been exposed to that. Well,
I have to acknowledge that, I'm sure you're right. There was going to be some number of people, some probably I would suspect small percentage of people that fall back on mysticisms to try to explain the things that they can't understand, or the things that scare them specifically. Obviously, that happens. We know it does. That's ubiquitous throughout human history. For some people, it became a risk management question, and that when you're talking about the freedom thing, I would say that for some people they were just going, okay, whatever the risks are, I've got this one particular value that says I'm just going to go out and live my life, and I'm going to do my thing, and if it kills me, then I was meant to die. And so,
okay, now when I use the word
people who are going to be a little bit cavalier,
I'm not talking about. Yeah, I'm not talking about I'm talking about the idea, the mysticism idea of American freedom, of we're so free we have the most people in prison in the world. It's the ignorance freedom, the free dumb that I push back against. Freedoms are great. I think a lot of ways America embodies that, and I'm all for it, I guess, because it's the way we're going. But when I criticize the freedom, I'm not criticizing choice and things like that. I'm criticizing how the classic stereotypical redneck with the American flag T-shirt and the big pickup truck is going, we're America's #1 freedoms. They're part of a freedom cult where freedom is a mysticism. The idea that they have in their mind of what freedom is, they don't even know what they have in mind. Because you ask them about it and they fumble. You have comedians do the interviews at like Trump rallies, and they ask them, so what has Trump done for you? And they go, made us free. They have no idea because they live in the mysticism. That's what I push back on with the freedom.
I could answer that question.
Not freedom, the freedom.
I can totally answer that question very easily. You want to hear it?
What question?
What Trump has done for me?
What question?
The question you said, what has Trump done for you? I could answer that question. I could.
What?
What has he done for me? Should I start with the taxes?
Well, you've thought about it.
Yeah.
He's done nothing for you. You're not a millionaire. If you had $1 million in your bank account, man, I would really love it if you did. But if you had $1 million in your bank account, you would definitely be thanking Trump. You would be so far up Trump's butt, I couldn't even find you.
Let me tell
But
you,
that's not what he did
specifically.
that's not what he did for you.
In 2011, I started working full time. No longer a professional musician full time. I started working 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I got walloped upside my head with taxes 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. But when I say walloped, what I'm telling you is I was probably paying 40%. Just clobbered with taxes. And they were going up every year. I'm talking about the percentage, not the amount. The amount obviously went up because I was making more every year, but the percentage went up every year. When Trump did the tax cuts, I instantly had 4 years consecutively where I paid 10%. It was beautiful. It was amazing. I saved tens of thousands of dollars in taxes. That's only because I'm lower middle class. If I had been upper middle class, it might have been tens of thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands. And if I had been a millionaire, sky's the limit. I might not have paid taxes at all. But after 2020, my tax liability immediately went back up to, and this year I'm going to be on the hook for about $15,000.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad he helped you.
So that's the first thing. I could keep going, but I won't.
Right. Well, you're not part of the free dumb. You've thought about it.
I suppose I'm not part of the dumbs.
Right. So like I was saying, I'm not criticizing freedom. I was criticizing freedom. The mysticism of freedom, where they don't know what it is. They just yell it at rallies. Okay. So that was my criticism of it.
Well, we got to let them have it. The alternative is
the things that
we would all be in prison.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We don't want to be in prisons, right? We want to get the prisons as empty as possible.
Yes.
We want to have only the people that are really a harm to society in the prisons. The people that are not harms to society, they ought to be out of the prisons. Isn't that about right?
That's usually the way it goes. Yep.
Yeah. That would be ideal.
Hopefully, well, that's the idea. That's the mysticism about that.
Obviously, that's not what we have. We have a situation where you can put yourself in prison by making bad choices that don't necessarily damage anybody. They only damage you, or maybe they don't even cause a damage at all, but you can still make those choices and end up in prison. We know that's a thing that can happen in the USA. It can happen anywhere, especially in Singapore. So, we should count our blessings.
I think I have a question for you about Trump.
Sure.
I clearly hate him, and I've hated him for like 40 years.
So before the politics.
It was way before politics. I knew about him from the New York scandal. Donahue had a bunch of stuff on him. So I had seen documentaries about him long before he was into this kind of politics. So I think my question is kind of like I guess not relativism. Given the good things he's done, it's also clear that he panders to religious fanatics and...
Doesn't every politician?
Dare I say...
Doesn't every politician pander to religious?
No. Religious fanatics. The crazy ones.
I would say...
Biden goes...
Politicians pander to everybody. They pander to whatever they can. But religion is an easy one. Yes, they all pander to religion.
Okay.
Do you remember the TED Talk that Dawkins?
Yeah, Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins. Thank you.
Richard.
The memes guy. He gave his TED Talk in, what was it, 2002, 3, 4. It was not real far after 9/11, only a year, maybe not even that much, and he was saying the he was I can't remember what exact percentage he said. I don't remember, but it was essentially he was talking about how many scientists are scientists but still God fearing, and he was talking about but essentially his I without saying the statistic because I can't remember what it was, but the upshot of what he was saying was get to the point, Beach, was that in order to be a politician in the U.S. or probably just about anywhere in the USA, you had to profess to God, to belief in God, or to be
Sure.
part of that thing. You had to because there was such a small percentage of non-secular or atheistic people in the country that if you were to
Yeah.
if you were to be non-secular like that and try to still get, there was just no way. There was no way it was going to happen. So carry on. I'm sorry to.
That's all right. My question is not necessarily about religion. I was trying to not say Nazis. I was trying to not say the Nazis.
Nazis.
With Trump taking the claim or claiming that he's the one that reversed Roe versus Wade. So now women are losing. That's why I brought up religion. Women are losing their reproductive rights. There are states where you can't. There have been states where a woman has had a miscarriage and was imprisoned for it. It's already happening. Christian Sharia.
Imprisoned for a miscarriage?
The rise in violence, right wing. Yes.
I find
the
that
rise in
story
right
to be
wing
passing bizarre.
Nazis, the
We get
violence.
a sighting for that? A sighting for that story of the woman
Yeah.
who had a miscarriage and was in prison? What news source? That strikes me as quite
I didn't want to get bogged down in this.
kind of bizarre. Is it safe to assume that that is a very remote kind of a situation, and that's not widespread, at least?
Woman jailed for miscarriage in Oklahoma, October 21 in Oklahoma. Brittany Pula, a first-degree manslaughter after the miscarriage of her 15 to 17-week-old fetus, and sentenced to 4 years in prison.
What did she do to create the
Roe versus
miscarriage?
Wade.
Did they feel like she was guilty of doing something to bring about the miscarriage? Did she take some poison?
Drug use. She was a drug addict.
Just regular
She overdosed
drugs?
on crystal meth. Yeah.
Huh. And they put her in prison because of the miscarriage.
It bothers me that this is shocking to you. It's bothering me that this is shocking news to you. Because this isn't the only one. And I don't want to run down a whole bunch of these. There's a lot of them.
We would need to get some idea.
And it's all because of Roe v. Wade.
Well, I would say don't live in Oklahoma, I guess.
To the point, To the point, skip over this. So you know it's happened. It is real. I'm not making stuff up. It's not a biased lefty news source with propaganda. There are women being put in jail for miscarriages.
Okay.
There are women dying because they're not being allowed abortions because of health issues. These are religious things. This is Trump taking credit for ending Roe versus Wade, which he totally did by putting in corrupt, lying judges. They lied in their interviews.
Because they weren't going to do away with Roe versus Wade, and then they went ahead and did it.
They weren't going to touch it, and they didn't do this. They weren't political. They weren't all the stuff that they lied about. They went in. They reversed Roe versus Wade, and now you have the downstream disaster from that. The whole wall and immigrants and the hatred against immigrants, all the negative stuff. And sadly, I think I'm going to have to give you examples of all the negative downstream effects from Trump in order for you to get this, my question.
Actually, Well,
and the question, just basic, the end question is, do you still love your tax breaks at the cost of dead mothers and dead LGBTQ and dead immigrants and the violence, all the negative stuff? Are you still going, gosh, I'm glad I saved some tax money?
I'll answer that question.
See, that doesn't sit with me.
It
doesn't sit well with me.
Let me answer that question, because I want something to sit with you. Hopefully it will. First of all, I would not give Trump the credit. He might take the credit, but I would not give him the credit for doing away with Roe versus Wade.
He absolutely made it happen. He absolutely put the judges in.
You feel like he did, but
it wasn't another president's name on those judges.
While he did put the judges in, and he did put the judges in, yes, that wasn't.
He had to sign it. He could have.
He didn't have. There was nothing he had. Well, he signed putting the judges in, yes, but
no,
he didn't.
He could have denied them. He could have denied him. He is the one that pushed them forward. He is the one that signed it and didn't, because there's other presidents that will not sign judges to be put in place because they believe they're corrupt.
Well,
so
okay,
Trump,
that's good. No, but let's talk about the corruption of the judges real quick, because I don't think those judges were corrupt, and I'll take it a step further, just for kicks, just so that you can know where my own head is at. If abortion should be illegal on a federal level, then we should, by God, pass some damn legislation to make it illegal on a federal level. It shouldn't be a situation where you're sitting there trying to interpret very loosely little bits of the Constitution to try to sort of, okay, maybe we'll just to make it illegal on a federal level. It shouldn't work like that. That was Roe versus Wade was an abortive use of the Supreme Court and its interpretation of constitutional law. That being said, once you then take away Roe versus Wade and it becomes up to the states again, if you live in a state where draconian things can occur to you if you're pregnant and don't want to be pregnant, then you, by God, had better relocate. You might be thinking, but you
horrible. Can't. That's the problem. They're making it against the law to leave the state to get an abortion.
No. I'm not saying
they're arresting women that leave the state.
That I don't think that they are.
That's.
But even if they were, move out of that state, become a refugee. Yes, you got to become a refugee.
But you can't. They can't.
They can go refuge themselves into another state.
This is why. This is why I get frustrated with the amount. No.
There's tons
if you have an abortion, if you lived in one state, if a woman lived in one state, got pregnant, moved to another state, and got an abortion, they would arrest her and put her in prison.
I would need a citation for that one. I don't think that happens.
I will give you lots of them, but there are so many of these. That's why I'm so frustrated and so angered, and just it makes steam come out of my ears when I hear you say stuff like this, because you're just clearly not aware of it because of wherever you're getting your media from, wherever you're getting your news from, is not telling you the whole story. That's not where you're getting this then, because the Young Turks covered it. So unless you're watching a lot of it, and I can't because Cenk is irritating on a level that's hard.
He's very difficult. But I watched the Young Turks, and I remember hearing some stuff about this, and I did my due diligence with research on it. I kind of feel like the Young Turks are a little bit of fake news, frankly, and when I say a little bit, I don't mean a little bit, I mean a lot. But I watched them because I need to know exactly the stuff that you're talking about, and I just don't actually see it. There's women refugees on this planet right now that are in a much harder way than any American girl who's pregnant who needs to be refugeed to some other state where she can cross borders legally to get away from draconian abortion laws. And again, I'm not against abortion. I say If you want to kill your kid, go right on and kill your kid. I am not going to be the one to tell a woman that she can't kill her kid, even after it's born. I'm not going to be the one to tell her that she can't kill her kid. But this is where we live.
Yeah. Okay. I can find them all. You have to read down into. I was just glancing over some of those other articles. I'm not making it up. So that's all true.
No.
So
I
my question still is,
we just need to look past the headline and
right. No. But as I run down the women being jailed for abortion, as I run down the women dying from lack of abortion, as I run down instances of LGBTQ being killed in the name of Trump because of what he says.
I haven't seen a single one of those either.
Mass shooters. Of course, clearly you haven't. That's my frustration. You have shooters where their manifesto clearly states Trump and the right-wing party and the world falling apart, and it inspired them to murder people. All this, and I could go on, and we can get more and more. I don't want to waste my time bring up all that. But your acceptance of all of that because you saved money on your taxes.
That wasn't the only thing.
And you think it's more than you would have gotten from another politician. I struggle with that.
I know.
Dude, I struggle with your allowing a dictator monster, a rapist. He was convicted of sexual assault. They couldn't say rape because they couldn't decide whether it was his penis or not.
Are we talking about the crazy writer girl? The writer?
Eugene Carroll?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's this dude. What happened to Trump with that story has happened to me more than once. A situation where a girl has got a crush on you, and she just makes up a story about how things happen, and then she...
Right, okay. See, this is where you're in... This is where you're becoming part of that snap too far into the conspiracy, because it happened to you. You lost trust in something. That means Trump, who's a fucking monster, must be innocent because it happened to you.
He may not be innocent of everything.
Those two things have nothing to do with each other.
There is no way.
I don't believe you.
Sexual relations with that chick.
I don't.
She made it up. She told one of her friends.
No, he didn't.
She told the fantasy to one of her friends, and then because she had told the fantasy to a friend, it got out of control, and the friend said, "Well, more people heard about it," and then she had to go and actually write about it. Like, this actually happened. No. I'm really not buying that one. If that was a stock, I'd be selling it. For better or for worse.
I think you're wrong. And I think that's the same place where you're forgiving the judges. The judges that did that the woman accused them of jumping on top of her and trying to rape her at a party.
That one was also pretty hard to buy. Yeah.
I don't want to put it in. Yeah, because why would that happen? No, women don't get raped. Men in power don't rape women. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Right.
Rich kids at parties never rape women, right?
Sure.
So
we know that
none of those judges, none of those presidents ever molested a woman because they're rich and powerful. And women lie, so none of them are guilty. So
we know that
what's the point? And since the justice system, since our justice system, the legal system, a system of our peers, the court and the jury found him guilty. Trump, in this instance, found him guilty. He has been found guilty of sexual assault. Right?
There was.
He has been found guilty of sexual assault.
I I don't know that he was actually found guilty of sexual assault. What he was found guilty of was
No.
what's the word I'm looking for? It was where you talk about somebody and
Sexual
lie
abuse?
or not lie, but you talk about somebody and it
Defamation.
defamation. Why can't I think of words?
Defamation.
My words.
It's defamation. It's defamation. No. See, this is again where I'm frustrated with you because you're getting the wrong information. I don't know how you do it, and I don't know who you're listening to. And man, when I find it, I'm going to research it and I'm going to fucking blast it. He has been found guilty of sexual abuse. Period.
To that
Look
lady.
in my eyes. Has been found. I'm not making this up. I'm not misinformed. He has been found by a jury guilty of sexual abuse.
So how did they prove it?
Period. What he's in court for now, I didn't prove it. The courts proved it. So what he's in court for now is how much he owes for it. There's no discussion of whether or not he did it. He was found guilty.
I know
and now they're doing the penalization part. Right. Has nothing to do with any of that. The second E. Jean Carroll case is because he couldn't keep his fucking mouth shut. So he's getting sued again for defamation the second time. Because he can't shut the fuck up. So he's already been found guilty. He is guilty of sexual abuse. Everything he's in court for now, Dad's calling me. Everything he's in court for now is sentencing.
Right. If I
sentencing. There's nothing to be said.
I can dig it. If I had a girl who falsely accused me of rape and managed to get it pushed through the course with a jury, and then I was, found guilty and sentenced to pay, I would probably not shut up about that either. I would be very upset and be very vocal about my upsetness.
Well, it's already cost him $5 million.
Jump change.
Right? And then he couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Change.
And the reason he can't keep his mouth shut is because he's using it as a pedestal for re-election. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I'm hanging out. Meanwhile, I want to give due consideration to Sean with all of these ideas. I know I frustrate the heck out of him, and I feel bad about that. Obviously, I don't want to frustrate Sean. But I've done the math on this.
You haven't. Your math is wrong.
I couldn't have been the only person. I couldn't have been the only person that was saving tens of thousands of dollars on their taxes over his term. That would have been anybody who was,
Okay, so we're getting back to, I'm going to forgive him putting racists or rapists, maybe rapists on the Supreme Court. I'm going to forgive him being a convicted sexual assault.
Yes,
he's convicted of it. You're going to forgive him all that. You're going to because a woman said you did something wrong, and that's why you're giving him a blank slate for everything he's ever been accused of, because you saved some money, and a woman said something false about you.
But before we get too far off of this particular thread, you had also mentioned the migrant crisis.
Yes.
With regards to the wall and hating migrants.
Hate crimes against migrants. Hate crimes against people being attacked by right-wing MAGA because they're from another country and Trump has built up the hatred towards them, the distrust towards them.
Yeah, I could see that being a thing. Those are not headlines that I have seen or stories that I have read, but I could see that being a thing. But here's where the Trump term rubber hit the road on that one. Only this. there was less traffic over the border during his 4-year term than previous and definitely after. Now, if you feel like we should just be letting everybody come over the border at absolutely no cost at all to the United States,
that's not what I think.
Okay, good.
That is not what I think.
Then clearly that is worthy of a discussion. But the fact that he did raise the price, as it were, to come into America enough to disincentivize, so much cross-border traffic, that's a net benefit. And we've seen the results of both extremes, both in Obama and Biden, with regards to border traffic, people coming over. And I don't know if anybody could possibly argue right now that it's not out of control. Right now, I mean. Right now.
I'm not arguing that.
Oh, good.
New data shows migrants were more likely to be released by Trump than Biden.
Okay.
So what I was just looking up briefly is you were saying because of Trump, less border crossings, right?
Ultimately, yes. Yes.
Okay. Biden's border laws are more strict than Trump's. They include Trump's laws, and he's added.
Well, what about remain in Mexico? Because Biden wrote that one off. That was an executive order signed by Trump, and one of the first things that Biden did was reverse that. You don't think that had a bearing on traffic?
It might have.
Across the border?
It might have.
I think that it did.
Might have. Yeah.
I think that it did.
Sure. But policy-wise, Biden is more strict than Trump, is more closed border laws than Trump.
Okay, so
you take that how you want. You take it how you want, but you're giving Trump credit for something that Biden is still doing, and things are different.
All I'm looking at is the result.
I mean,
actually, I'm just looking at the result.
It is the result. So when you talk about economy,
no, I'm talking about
the economy is better under Biden. Sure, the economy is better under Biden. So if you're looking at the result, which you're not, the economy is better under Biden by every measure.
There's no sane person that's going to be able to argue that one to me.
See, that's why
I track the U.S. dollar, and it's just not really showing me how the economy is awesome. And even if the economy were good, I would not be at all saying, oh, it's because we've taken on 30 million illegal aliens over the border in the last 4 years. That I wouldn't be saying that.
But you're going to credit Trump for something he's not doing.
I could say that I would credit Trump, but all I'm saying is the result. When we had Obama, there was a ton, not like it is now, but there was a ton of cross-border traffic. When we had Trump, that was curtailed to a significant degree. Trump out, Biden in. They just fired up the fire hose in terms of illegal immigration, and that's the result. Whatever policies were in place or whatever was happening, the result is mass immigration during Obama, no mass immigration during Trump, massive immigration during Biden. That's the result. I don't know about the policies.
I don't see how you can see that.
And even as I say that, I wouldn't want anybody to think that I'm not pro-immigration, because I'm totally pro-immigration. I would love for anybody who wants to come to this country to come to this country. What I hate is, what I very much dislike is, that when you've got any situation where somebody is trying to get from point A to point B, there's going to be somebody there who's going to gatekeep that transit. Doesn't matter what. if that somebody is an NGO, then you run into the problem of a lack of rule of law. That somebody who is saying, is acting as the gatekeeper from point A to point B for anybody that wants to make that transit, that gatekeeper needs to be, I hate to say it, amazingly enough, that is the role of government. That should be governmental so that there can be rule of law in that place. Because without that, if it is an NGO, you're going to have trafficking and raping people just to pay for their transit, whatever. You're going to be extracting it. It's going to be going to
no.
NGO.
Women lie, so rape doesn't happen.
We know that's not the case, though, with regards to people coming across the border. That's not what I'm talking about.
I know it's the sliding definitions are frustrating to me.
Women lie when they have an incentive to lie, and I shouldn't say that they always lie when they have an incentive to lie, because sometimes they will have an incentive to lie and they won't lie. That's great. That's going to be anybody, by the way. But a woman who is crossing the border, or even a freaking child, is not going to come across that border and lie about getting raped. If they got raped, they're going to be, I got raped. And that's going to be the story most of the time anyway, because we're not just talking about a routine NGO. We're talking about the cartel. And those guys, how do you want to describe them without using the A word?
Yeah, the worst. They're the worst. Yeah. Policy's gone bad. They're the worst of policies. They are the example that Trump got right.
And all we would have to do, right?
I'm not anti-Trump just to be anti-Trump.
I get you. All we'd have to do to disincentivize the cartels is put a price on a border crossing. Right now, there's no price, and they've set the price. And if the United States said, here's how much the border crossing is going to cost, here's what it's going to cost you to come to America, the people would then be going, well, if once I add that to the amount that the cartel's charging, it's not worth it to me, so I'm not coming. Then the cartel's going, well, now nobody's coming, so we're out. And then the people are coming back and going, okay, so now I don't have to pay the cartel amount, I can just pay the U.S. amount, and that's, okay, I can do that. And so some people will come across. But right now, everybody is just coming across like they can, and they're paying the cartel whatever they can, and the cartel's willing to take it out of their hide, literally in some cases. The cartel will finance you across the border.
The cartel is bad.
The cartel is bad.
The cartel is bad.
This is bad.
The cartel is bad. It's bad. Why don't we have that here?
I'm sorry, why don't we have the cartel
Why don't we
here?
have the... Yeah, in America.
It is my understanding that the cartel operates in all 50 states right now. The Mexican cartel.
Oh, so it's not a Mexico problem.
It's a law and order problem right now.
If it's in all 50 states in America, it's not a Mexico problem.
That's right.
So it's not a border problem. That's not a problem with the border.
It wasn't a huge widespread problem until immigration became such a cheap thing to occur.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's not a problem until it is. No, it's not the way it is until it's the way it is.
Okay.
So times have changed, sure.
Okay.
Trump didn't stop it, and Biden didn't stop it.
Right.
Obama didn't stop it. It was not stopped. The results are the cartels, from what you're telling me, because I haven't heard this, are in all 50 states. So it's no longer a Mexico problem, right? It's an American problem.
The cartels...
It's an American cartel now.
Just to be, I think the major power comes from Mexico. The thing to keep in mind is,
how would you... I don't know how you could even say that.
I'll tell you exactly how. Here's how. First of all, it wasn't...
That's like saying it's a Christian problem, but only in Jerusalem. It's from Jerusalem is where the real problem is.
Hang on.
But it's Christian.
I explain. Hang on. The cartel obviously started out in Mexico, and it started with mostly drugs, not so much human trafficking like you do. Okay? It was a drug thing. That's not new. That's been established. That was going on in the 70s and
No,
maybe even earlier than that.
I think their drug cartel started in Italy. So it's the Italians. It's the mafia.
Well, that certainly could be La Costa Nostra.
So this is all an Italian problem. My problem is saying it's a Mexican problem. It's Mexican criminals.
Okay.
Why aren't they Italian criminals?
It is specifically Mexican criminals because they're from Mexico, the ones that are masterminding it. But here's the thing. When people hit the border to cross, right, and they encounter the cartel, if they have the money to pay, and that's probably going to be whatever it is, whatever they have on them mostly, I would say, they're going to pay that money, and they're more or less going to be able to cross the border at that point, for the most part, probably mostly unmolested. If they get to that border and they don't have the money, the cartel is going to literally take it out in debt. The cartel will finance them to cross that last bit of desert and help them across the border, smuggle them in the USA, and blah, blah, blah. And they are left with a debt to the cartel that the cartel, knows that they own. So I don't know what the percentage is of all these 30 million migrants that are in the USA now, but some percentage of those 30 million migrants are A, cartel members, or B, owe money cut to the cartel, literally. So whatever money they make under the table or however they can make it, or where do they steal, they're going to be sending money back to the cartel, and it's going to be channeled through the representatives of the cartel that are here in the United States, obviously, because they're not going to be sitting there wiring money to Mexican cartel people. That would be daft. They've got cartel members.
So there's no proof.
There's very little to prove on this. There's no proof. No.
Right. So
I'll be just welcome to be wrong about all of this. All of it.
Because you're saying a certain percentage send their money and are controlled by the Mexican drug cartel. I'm going to push back and say there are probably even more Americans indebted to gangs in the inner city, and they're sending money to them. I think America is doing we're just fine with our own drug cartels.
How do Americans get
single out
how do Americans get in
the
debt
mafia?
to
the mafia?
I mean, so
that's every Hollywood movie that's ever made about drugs.
So what you're
they don't have to be from Mexico.
Is that La Cosa Nostra and any other drug dealer outfit in America is willing to finance a drug dealer or drug user? I mean, I'll give you this on credit. You owe me. Because I think that only goes so far.
Like drug mules. Like drug mules.
Well,
why aren't we talking about drug dealers from Venezuela? Why aren't we talking about drug dealers from Colombia? Why aren't we talking about drug dealers from Canada?
We actually are.
They are. They're there.
Colombia,
I promise you. I promise you there are meth labs in Canada coming into America. I promise you there are cocaine farms in other countries other than Mexico.
But can the average
drug
user?
I promise you there is a ton of heroin coming over, and it's not from Mexico.
Sure, I get
from the Middle East.
But can the average drug user, say, can I have $4,000 or $5,000 worth of drugs and owe you? I'll get this to you later. I just don't think that is a deal that most drug dealers make. They've got to have cash on the barrelhead. But when you're trafficking across a border, and you got somebody who's desperate and just going, I'll give you whatever I can. They're going, you'll give me everything you've got, and I'll take $5,000 in debt, and I've got this person here who's going to make sure that you are, paying it.
Again, you're describing movies. These are movie plots.
Well, again, I would love to be.
Makes perfect sense.
It's just
what doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense is having Trump's cock in your mouth and praising him for it. That's what doesn't make sense.
The reason that I
Saying
don't
that he did something that all the other presidents didn't do is because the other presidents didn't do it and he didn't do it. If you want to go back to let's look at the results, well, let's look at the results. Did he stop it? No, he didn't. Is there a wall? No, there isn't. The things that he said he wanted to do, he didn't do. If you're just looking at the results, at that point, it didn't happen. He didn't do it. He failed. And what we're discussing are Hollywood movies about drug mules. And it could be from any country. But we're still talking about Mexicans. We're talking about Mexicans because of the racism ginned up by Trump. That's why we're talking about this. That's my point.
I don't think I'm racist, or I'm not talking about it due to racism. It's just, it is what it is. We've got a whole bunch of...
No, we're not.
We've got a whole bunch of illegal
aliens,
migrants, yeah, and from other countries as well, who are here now, and they're here. That result is pretty self-evident. You can just look around and see that it's there. And to be fair, we actually are very sheltered from that here in Florida. We do not see it. We can see the after effects of many other immigrations that have occurred, but not this latest one. Not so much. Not yet, anyway. That much is easy to see.
I get that it sucks. I don't like it.
Right. But there was not so much of this during Trump. Now, it may not have anything to do with anything that he did. Maybe he didn't do anything when it was just sheer luck of the draw that
I don't think it did.
People crossing the borders. But Remain in Mexico should have been worth something, I think.
No, I think it was more corporate influence.
Okay, but if that was his
corporate influence,
that was his corporate influence, then okay, that was as a result. That was something he did.
No, it wasn't. It's nothing. No, he didn't. When I say corporate influence,
something not influenced by him.
My point of this, why are we not arguing about Canadians coming across the border illegally? Why are we arguing about Mexicans?
I don't know. I would say,
and the simple and here's, I don't want to say simple. Canadians aren't running from poverty and dictators and violence and war.
That's
and
what
all the trappings.
Canadians coming over.
Right. They're not running from that. Mexicans are. What is the cause? Why are Mexicans trying to get the hell out of their country and come here where they're arguably going to run into just as much racism from our authorities as they do from the drug cartels down there? Why would they come here?
That is a great
question.
It's
clearly worse. It's clearly worse in Mexico for some reason.
They are incentivized
by
something.
I promise it's not accidental. Because it's not accidental that Canadians aren't coming over. So what's going on in Mexico and in the southern countries that aren't going on in the northern countries?
Now, are you asking that or are you asking that for real, or do you want my answer for it?
It's mostly I'm pushing back against the idea that it's the Mexican criminals that are coming over.
I'm not suggesting that for a
because Mexicans are criminal because border crossing is bad because they're bad people and they only bring bad things. That's what I'm pushing back against. These are people that are running from something going on in their country, and trying to come here, and they're being victimized by the criminal. I get all that. I get all that.
Yes.
Trump and Biden being draconian in inhumane, racist laws that are causing suffering is not the answer. None of this talk about the border is going to stop people from wanting to get the fuck out of whatever the trouble they're in.
Okay.
So we can argue all day long about what Trump did, what he didn't do, what Biden's doing better, what he's not doing better. None of it's going to change the fact that the rats are trying to run off the sinking ship. So maybe instead of, and see, my problem is the Trump is your worship of Trump. Maybe instead of just gobbling the balls of the orange dictator, look past that and figure out what we can do to fix them coming over here. Because Mexico doesn't seem to have a problem with Americans going into Mexico to getting medical help, right? Americans all the time go over the border, cross the border to get cheap medical attention. Those sons of bitches taking advantage. Yeah, those sons of those goddamn cheap Americans coming into Mexico and ruining their country. But if you, God forbid, you have a Mexican coming up here trying to get work, shoot them at the border, put up razor wire and drown them in the canals because they're criminals. All of this back and forth, we're arguing over the line where everyone's where the suffering is happening, instead of looking over and why it's happening in the first place.
Right.
That's why we're not arguing about Canadians coming over. That's why we're not arguing about other foreigners coming into the country. Just Mexico. There's some shit there. Whether Trump's involved, whether Biden's involved, I'm sure it has something to do with Hunter Biden's dick pics on a laptop. I'm sure that's why all the Mexicans are coming up. That's why the drug cartels are so powerful. Sarcasm.
Okay. So do you want to have?
I hate all of this. I hate all of this conversation. I don't like any of this. I don't want to talk about it at all, ever. I don't like it. It makes me mad.
All right. In that case, let me see if I can. I don't want to just wail on this conversation if it makes you mad. Obviously, that doesn't really do a lot of good.
The frustrating thing is me having to bring up the examples that you're totally unaware of.
Okay,
that's my frustration.
Frustration of that, and I don't want to just completely come off as being absolutely ignorant to some of these things, because a lot of times I just need to know what you know, or what you think you know, and the only way I can do that is for me to say, enlighten me. But I don't want to make it sound like that. But let me see. I want to see if I can formulate a question for you. So that you can answer. And I don't know how easy this will be to answer, or even if I can ask the question. But I want to try to answer it, because ultimately, it's going to always boil down to what should I do? What should you do? What should we do? How do we live our life? What is our next actual move? And that's what it always boils down to. But in getting to that, then I ask the question, so what does it mean? And in answering what does it mean, hopefully we then get to the next question of, okay, so what action do I take? What moral action do I take? Because I don't want to just be perceived as moral. I want to be moral. I want to be ethical. And so I can totally dig in saying that. I can dig how you're frustrated with me saying, well, I just saved tens of thousands of dollars on my taxes, and you're going, well, that's not worth it. But clearly that's not the only thing.
The exchange isn't worth it.
Yeah, that's not the only thing, but it does come back to, I want to do the right thing. And if that wasn't the right thing, then I would take all of that tax money that I saved right now, and I would give it to charity. And frankly, that wouldn't be difficult, because I've already given away half of it as it is, to a charity. And I would want to make sure that it was the right charity. So it would be to Planned Parenthood or something else, whatever, give it to an abortion clinic.
None of that will make any difference.
Or
none of that makes any difference.
Give it to somebody who has got their GoFundMe set up to say, I need to get myself the hell out of Oklahoma because I can't hang with this draconian state law, and I need to be somewhere where it's legal, and I'd be like, okay, so here's $20,000 and move. I can't throw every starfish back, but I can throw that one back. Have you heard that story? I don't know if you know that story.
Dad was struggling.
So just real quick,
I don't know that story.
The story of there was a kid on the beach, and they're covered in starfish, and they're all dying, and he's sitting there and he's picking them one at a time and throwing them back into the ocean. And at the rate he's going, he can't save every starfish, obviously, because there's hundreds of thousands of them, millions, whatever, and he's just a kid. So the dad comes up, he's like, "What you doing?" And he's like, "Throwing these starfish back in there." And he's like, "Well, you might as well give up on that, because you're not going to be able to save all these starfish." And the kid goes, "Well, I just saved that one. I made a difference to that one." It's a cute little story. It doesn't mean much, but it's a yay story.
Right. It matters to the one I saved. Sure. Yeah.
Right. So
it matters to the one I saved. I have a whole. I could go on and on about how I hate charities.
Yeah. I get that too. So what does it mean with regards to Trump or Biden? What does it, or any other candidate that you want to talk about, since we're in an election year? Who are we going to vote for? Who should I vote for? What does it mean?
My frustration is I understand the fears of the right.
Yeah.
I can understand people on the border not wanting all these usually less educated, kind of salt of the earth migrant workers hanging around, going through their backyard. Up in New York, it's the Guatemalans is what they complain about up there. The Guatemalans and the wineries.
Huh. I wonder how many.
They just hang out, and you get a lot of people that don't have a.
I'm just wondering how so many Guatemalans ended up.
It's because of the wineries, the migrant workers.
All together? Oh, okay. There's wineries in New York?
No, the wineries. It's the grapes. The grape, yeah. Huh. They go for picking. They're vegetable. They're pickers. They're the migrant workers. The Guatemalans go up there for work, but they don't have housing. A lot of them are illegal.
Yeah. If I'm only going to just toss out one real quick idea with regards to this question of what does it mean, with regards to the immigrants themselves, all that really boils down to, and it's very simple. It'll sum it up very simply. They'll come over, and it's going to lower the value of wages. Now, that does not have to be, oh my God, kind of a thing. You don't have to have a bad reaction to it. If you do have a bad reaction to it, I don't know what to tell you. Get your ass to college or whatever. I'm talking to anybody, not you necessarily, but you get the idea. All it does really is just lower the value of labor in America. That's it. It's not going to bring the value of labor to zero, so we don't have to worry about that. And we're working on a.
It's going to try.
We're working on a federal minimum wage.
It's going to.
It's going to probably drop below.
It is. The labor is going to go down to zero. Robots don't get a minimum wage.
That doesn't have to do with exactly. That doesn't have to do with immigrants. That has to do with AI or something.
Yeah.
So
that's not a different problem, right? That's not a different problem.
How so?
They're both going to take our jobs. They're both lowering the value of labor.
Okay.
They're both going to disrupt us, the people. If you have, I should ask, how many people are going to be screaming about Mexicans coming up to work in the fields when there aren't any working in the fields, but they're robots? Why are Mexicans coming up here? Because they think they can find a better life. Why are Guatemalans up in New York? Because they can get work from companies' illegal activities in hiring illegal immigrants, right?
Well,
so that's
we should probably talk about that real quick.
The attraction is cheap illegal labor that no Americans want to do. If Americans wanted to do it, they would be hiring Americans to do it, but they're not. They're driving to the street corner, getting a truckload of Guatemalans, and then going out to the field. This will all end. All this immigration, all this migrant workers will end when robots are in the field. Do you think that's going to be better? Do you think all the people that are on the border of Mexico right now are going to go, phew, those Mexicans aren't coming over the border anymore. I don't have a job. The robots are doing everything. I've been living under a bridge for the last year, but at least there's no Mexicans, right? Am I right? It's the same problem. Robots are going to be the migrant workers of tomorrow. And we're going to be having a different argument, and it won't be about Mexican drug users or drug dealers.
Will the argument be about, can you be racist to a robot?
Luddites. It will be Luddites. Yes. That will be the conversation. And we already have Luddites. We already have people cutting charging cables at electric car charging spots. There's already vandalism against robots. So, and there's already a ton of sci-fi movies about this and sci-fi books.
It's cute. So is there something intrinsically wrong with any corporate company, even local business going, I'm going to get some cheap labor right now by going down to the street corner and getting anybody willing to work?
Other than it's illegal.
Other than it's illegal, is there something wrong with it? I mean, is there something ethically wrong with it?
I don't know. There are groups of people on street corners.
Yeah.
There are groups of them here in Florida. I see them.
Sure.
Trucks pull up.
They want to work.
Yes. Other than it's illegal.
And that's
if I'm taking it. If it being illegal is not an issue, is there something morally wrong about it?
Morally,
I don't think so. I don't know.
They came here to work. They didn't come here to stand on the street corner.
Right.
And if the pay wasn't good enough for them, they would not take it. They would not get on the truck. They would say, "Oh, $50 ain't going to cut it for today. I've got to work for 100." So the ones that were willing to work for 50 would jump on the truck, and the ones that wanted to hold out, they would stay on the street corner, and hopefully get the 100.
It'd be a constant race to the bottom. It would be that again, the constant race to the bottom.
Oh,
as capitalism does. That's the problem with
because you feel like the value of labor would continue to go down.
There's always going to be someone desperate enough, hungry enough to go lower. There's not always going to be someone that values themselves enough or elevate themselves enough to abstain.
Their alternative
The direction is always going to be down.
They get up in the morning and they've got a series of options, some better than others. One option, if I was going to put their options on a spectrum, one option is to stand on a street corner and hopefully find somebody who comes by in their truck and says, we're doing roofing today and it's going to be $100. Anybody with roofing skills? Whether you got roofing skills or not, who cares? You jump on the truck and you go work and you get paid. That's one option. The other option is to...
That is immoral. That I do not agree with.
Go out and instead of standing on the street corner, going and and instead of standing on the street corner and trying to get a job, even temporary work, you're going to go out and you're going to go out onto not private property, obviously, and you're going to trap or otherwise get food, hunt food, go fish, legally or unlegally, preferably legally, obviously, and you're going to pick berries legally that are wild, growing in the wild, that don't belong to anybody, and you're going to hunt and gather. Those are the two extreme options right there.
Yeah, that's the second option that you just is not an option. That's mysticism.
Right. That's
you're not doing that
extreme
anymore.
Now here's the deal though. When they were crossing the Darien Gap, they would wake up in the morning and they'd have two options. They could continue to trek on to America, where they were going to then have the option to stand on the street corner and get work, or they could have just stayed right there in the rainforest and hunt and gathered, just like tribes have been doing since the beginning of who knows when. They opted to travel and cross the rainforest and the desert and all the distance and the border and then hit that street corner. That was the option they took. Make sense? They're doing the better option by working, even if it's only for $10.
Yes. In today's world, especially if behind you in the rainforest there's guerrilla soldiers shooting at you and raping your children and doing all the terrible stuff. Yes, the obvious option, the only option is to work.
Not just guerrilla soldiers. Obviously, guerrilla soldiers are horrible as well, but there are areas of the rainforest where it's not guerrillas that you have to worry about. It's actual gorillas, or actually not gorillas, but you know, wild animals, snakes, spiders, and plants. Don't forget the plants. There's a million ways to die in the rainforest, but there are tribes of people living down there right now who have been doing it forever. And if somebody from Venezuela, I'm just saying, if somebody from Venezuela was like, I can't wipe my ass here because there's no toilet paper and there's no food and anything like, and they're, oh dang, we lost our connection? You gotta be kidding me. Oh, you're back. Hopefully we didn't lose anything. Anyway, my point is somebody from Venezuela could either say,
I lost you.
It's okay, I'm still here. I'm going to keep talking.
You're there.
Yeah, I am here. It's true. I can see myself. It's going to come back.
This one's going to recover.
Oh, no. It's going to recover, dude. Trust me. I can hear you. I can see you. You're like a god to me. Wait, that could be the other way around. I should be a god to you. Oh, no. I'm still here.
I'm going to pinch it.
And I